This is the Rebound Tampa Bay podcast. I'm James Tully. One of our biggest missions here is not just helping people, but people who are operating businesses. And there's no question they've taken on a lot of water in the last several months. So with me this morning is Rolando Lopez with CFO Associates. And we're going to talk about everything that businesses have done and, of course, can do moving forward. Rolando, good morning to you.
Good morning, James, and thank you for having me.
Hey, my pleasure. Just this morning, we talked about restaurants and how this has been such a horrible time for them. In fact, a lot of analysts have said the restaurants really have suffered the most during this time, and that's going back to the complete shutdown that we had. Many of them still haven't recovered from it.
Absolutely. I mean, restaurants and hospitality in general, right?
Sure.
They were forced to close their doors. Obviously the whole Paycheck Protection Program was brought out and rolled out in order to alleviate that. But, as you discussed, there was a lot of problematic things as it was rolled out because it was rolled out so quickly that restaurant owners face, starting with, something out. They were closed and then they were given this money to pay payroll. But if you're not having any customers, then why would you have your staff on the payroll during that period? So that was one of the trickiest things that originally came out, and the government in Congress passed a few changes that kind of alleviated that issue to allow people to consume them throughout the correct timeline of when they needed to use those.
I mean, not just for restaurants, but I mean, any business in general. We could have predicted a lot of the problems that were going to come. People weren't going to they just weren't going to get the money on time. There were going to be problems distributing it out. And also, there wasn't going to be enough of it. There were sign-up processes and applications that were filled out, and some businesses didn't qualify or get to it in time, and there wasn't money for them. That happened too.
Right. And that was, going all the way back to when it was first rolled out, March 31st, right? The CARES Act was enacted.
Which, by the way, feels like 5 years ago at this point.
I know. Tell me about it. On the accounting and tax side, it's been crazy, trying to help people. Right now we're almost psychologists and psychiatrists to our clients and helping them get through this, to kind of alleviate and calm them down a little bit. But as you stated, originally when it was rolled out on March 31st, 13 days later, it ran out. And, a lot of people were watching on the news, the big corporations got it. And really, looking back at it, James, as an accountant, that's really what happened. We found that larger corporations, people that already had a relationship with an accountant, those people got the funds in the first round. And really, the additional funding wasn't passed till later, April 24th. So almost a full month went by when, the small business owners, our clients that truly needed it, about 50% of them didn't get it in the first round. And we had to wait. And during those 3 weeks, there was a lot of anxiety. Because the lockdown has started, as you mentioned, and, their doors were closed. And here they were, not knowing if they were going to actually receive the funds, if more was going to be approved, or if enough was going to be approved.
He's Rolando Lopez with CFO Associates, an accounting firm, joining me here on the Rebound Tampa Bay podcast. Well, let's just do a State of the Union thing here, if we can. Where do things stand based on your clientele and the people you're talking with every day? How do you feel things are now as we speak in the middle of September?
Right. So now that the August 8th deadline to apply for PPP is over, almost every business owner and accountant right now is focusing on the forgiveness portion, which ultimately that's the most important part of these loans, right? Because if you don't get it forgiven, you're actually going to have to give it back, which could potentially put people at an even worse position than they began before taking these loans. So, right now, that's what we're going through each of our clients and anybody. So in Congress right now, there's a bill, and it's a partisan bill that they're trying to make it easier on the banks because any loan below 150 grand potentially is going to get automatically forgiven. Now, we will have to apply for forgiveness, but it's almost a check the box situation there. So what our firm has done is we stayed put and we're waiting for that final bill to be passed to see if that is going to be the case for all of our clients that got loans below 150 grand. But everybody above 150 grand, we're now focusing on gathering documentation, filling out the application for forgiveness. And the crazy part about all of the forgiveness portion is that every lender has a different process. So the bigger banks typically have a good systematic way and approach about it, but smaller banks that our clients are using, more manual Excel spreadsheets and all that. So we're helping our clients through that process to get it forgiven.
Let's talk a little bit about the damage control that businesses can still do. Let's talk about options. Anybody out there listening who might own a small business knows somebody who does. Let's talk about what you can do right now, and of course the status of things coming in and what you guys expect to happen with Congress possibly passing another stimulus bill, what have you. Whatever comes down from there, we can never predict, right? We can't really rely on that. So, is your advice to anybody owning a small business right now?
So with the PPP funds application period over now, one thing that business owners, and we've actually analyzed all of our clients to see who is still hurting potentially to access additional SBA loans. So there was two programs that was rolled out, and I know today we're focused on the PPP loan, but there's also the economic injury disaster loan rolled out by the SBA, and that is still open for business owners to apply. We've actually helped several of our restaurant clients apply for these because they found that PPP wasn't enough. And in this scenario, in order to kind of keep people calm, I advise our clients like, hey, let's apply for the disaster loan. Have it in savings, have it as a reserve. If we don't need it in a year from now when payments begin, then pay it back.
Right, pay it back,
so,
and that of course
exactly.
saves you if it isn't forgivable too. I mean, and even if it is forgivable, that money of course can be applied to something else, right, in that same realm.
Correct. So the disaster loan is not forgivable. That's the only thing I always make sure I explain to people and our clients that are kind of inquiring about it. It's not forgivable. However, it is deferred for a year, and you get a full year of not having to pay on. So a year from now, if you found that your business is stabilized again, I'm encouraging people just to pay it back. And ultimately, what I'm allowing people to do is have a peace of mind because they have some cash reserves in their bank account, right? Nothing is scary as a business owner, and I've never seen it quite like this. Obviously, this is unprecedented, and nothing is scarier than knowing that your revenue has gone down to zero. And here you are with a lease, that you personally guaranteed. Here you are with loan and debt that you personally guaranteed. And, I've gotten to see a lot of anxiety, arise from this in our clients. So taking on additional funding with the disaster economic injury loans is something that we've advised for clients that are really struggling. Now, because it's additional debt and has to be paid back, if I see that our client is not struggling as bad, I advise them not to take it. So that's the additional step that we've taken above the PPP funds to kind of help business owners through this whole entire process.
No, that makes a lot of sense. The one stat that we ran today was that it's estimated that more than 16,000 restaurants, it's just restaurants, have had to close permanently during this time, this is nationwide. That's a very disheartening number. Rolando, what's the comeback from this? How much water on the boat are we really taking on here as a nation?
Exactly, and that's something that we've assessed client by client, especially in the hospitality industry, right? Because one thing we don't want to do is get hopped up on debt, and then a year from now your business net has not recuperated. Ultimately, if your business doesn't recuperate and the revenues don't come back, then you're going to be on the hook for these loans. Both on the PPP side if it's not forgiven, and the disaster loan from the SBA. And we're helping clients kind of assess whether they should take it on or not based on their individual situation.
You mentioned the benefits to having an accounting firm or working with an accountant during this time as a business owner. Do you have any grasp on the amount of businesses, maybe a rough percentage, that don't work with an accounting firm?
I would say probably 20 to 30% of businesses.
That many?
Don't work on a continuous basis. So most business owners, of course, they got to get their taxes done.
Well,
so
of course.
They have a tax guy that they touch base with once or twice a year. And that's why our firm is a little bit different in that sense, in that we are in continuous, communication with our clients throughout the year regarding their business, and then ultimately regarding their personal tax planning and finances, right? So for people that didn't have accountants prior to this, I think it was a kind of a eye-opening experience because the funny thing too, James, is even if you did have an accountant, right, this was all brand new to everybody, including accountants. So as things were being rolled out, we had to, stay updated and make sure we communicated that to the clients so they felt comfortable with the process through it all.
Again, this is a situation where you need as much help as you can, and maybe that added expense is the last thing a lot of people want to hear, of having an accountant, just somebody to watch your back and shepherd you through some of this stuff. That sounds like that might be a really good maneuver.
Yeah, absolutely. I recommend that people touch base with their accountant. One thing we found, there was we added a few clients during this process because their accountants didn't want to assume this. Our firm, we actually allocated staff to just solely focus on the updates and making sure that we're getting the application and submitted as fast as we could for the clients, in order to get those funding into their bank accounts as quickly as possible. Overall, the people that did go through a professional, they normally got their funds way faster through this whole process.
He's Rolando Lopez, CFO Associates, an accounting firm, here with me on the Rebound Tampa Bay podcast. Let's finish with this. Next steps forward. You're seeing the topic of this podcast is the rebound. Are you seeing a lot of businesses rebound? Maybe give me a rough percentage on how people are coming back as far as their revenue streams go. If you want to highlight different businesses or different areas of business, by all means, go right ahead.
Yeah. So let's start with hospitality.
Sure,
right?
Let's start there. Good place.
In order to recuperate some of those sales, one of the things we encourage all of our clients to do that own a restaurant, which some were already doing, was get on all the platforms for like Uber Eats, DoorDash, right? Try and digitize your services and product as much as you can, because
get creative.
Absolutely. And the economy was already shifting towards that digital, but now it's just been accelerated. And restaurants being hit so heavy, it fell upon them that they need to pivot. They needed to pivot some way, somehow. We have other clients in other industries, right? Wholesaler clients that they actually came out of this even better because they were able to purchase and sell a lot of PPE equipment. And that allowed them to kind of float through this period with the lost revenues from other products that they had.
No, sure. We talked to several breweries that were making hand sanitizer. They got creative, probably at the right time. Absolutely,
exactly. It's funny how entrepreneurs during times of real hard times like this and scary times, we get super creative, and I've seen that across our client base. They somehow find ways to squeeze cash out of their sales and down their expenses and reduce their expenses, when they really sit down and focus on it. And through it all, our relationship with our clients has really improved because there's, going through this together has really bonded us. And we've had consistent communication. I've had to, in several instances, calm some of our clients down, like, you'll get your funds. It's just, it's being processed.
Sure, of course.
So,
yeah, well, it's unprecedented for all of us, Rolando. And that's right. And that's just it. We are all in this together, that's for sure. What's the outlook right now? How are you feeling?
I feel positive. I've seen a few clients, out of all our clients, we haven't had one close its doors yet. So, I know that you hear stories out there that, hey, 20%, 30% of businesses might shut down. As of right now, none of them have had to close its doors. And I would say only 10% of them are like adversely affected, where we're still trying to, plan it out, figure out how we're going to get through it. So my outlook is good. And really, I think it comes down to the entrepreneur's, ability to pivot during these times. And I've seen that over and over again.
When your back's up against the wall, adapt or die, right? Yeah,
exactly. And many of these instances, right, this is their bread and butter. People's businesses is their main form of income. And, when your back is against the wall on that, and you have kids, and, a lot of our clients have families. And I can see the stress in our clients, but they're able to get through it, and they have so far.
Rolando Lopez, CFO Associates, thank you so much for joining me here on the Rebound Tampa Bay podcast. You heard it straight from him. Not one of his clients have had to shut their doors during this time, and that's good to know. If you're out there and maybe not as fortunate, really on some hard times, or know somebody who is, Rolando, why don't you pass along your information if anybody wants to reach out to you to get some professional guidance and some help here?
All right. Thank you, James. Yeah, so we're a CPA firm. We're located in Tampa, in Hyde Park. You can go to our website, actually, and there's a schedule a call button on there that you could, schedule a meeting with me personally, and we'll go through your situation and assess it to kind of give you that peace of mind and give you a runway to work on and get through this scenario.
Again, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, James.
New episodes of the Rebound Tampa Bay podcast drop every Wednesday morning. We have a video version of this for you on the ABC Action News streaming channel. Just download that to your favorite streaming device. This has been the Rebound Tampa Bay podcast. I'm James Tully.